Welcome back to Miss Casella's classroom on YouTube. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on logical intelligence, how we intellectually reason with things. So this is rooted in the 7 intelligences, the multiple intelligences. We have deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Both are correct. One is not superior to the other. Some people do well with both ways of reasoning, and some people really only do well with one way of reasoning. And again, we all learn differently, we all express ourselves differently, we organize information in our brain differently and internalize it differently. So that's nice and everything, but the thing is, traditionally, we're hung up on this deductive reasoning. In terms of a science experiment, we do the top-down approach where we have a theory, a hypotenuse where we're taking some guesses, and then we do our observations, we look for patterns, we experiment, compare, contrast, and then we have our conclusion. In terms of an essay, we tell students they need to have a thesis statement, they need to have 3 premises to support their thesis, then they must have a conclusion where they restate their thesis and wrap it up the end. Well, that doesn't work for me. This one works for me where you go bottom up. So if you're like me and you're writing an essay, you'll overwhelm yourself and you'll be a bit of a scatterbrain, and that's okay. That just means you're like Miss Casella. We share that way of thinking. So what I need to do is I need to decide what I want to talk about. That's my conclusion. What I want to conclude. And then I need to figure out, well, what can I say about this conclusion? I need to do some research, so I'll start reading, and before I know it, I have all these notes on all this stuff about my conclusion, and next thing you know, I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for things that I'm repeating. You know what, I'm talking about this a lot. Hey, I'm talking about this person a lot. Maybe that could be one of my premises. Hey, you know what, I keep going back to the environment. Maybe the environment could be a premise. And it takes a long time, but again, this is my process. So I find out how I can chunk my information together. I usually have too much information, and I like that flexibility because I kind of feel like I'm playing a researcher or I'm playing a news reporter where I get to have all this information and then I pick and choose which is more interesting to me. Or perhaps I really wanted to do something for a premise, but I just don't have enough information on it. So given the fact that I seem to have a lot of information on this premise, I'll cut that one out and use this instead. So I find myself with choices and flexibility. And before I know it, somehow I've come up with a thesis statement. So I've done the essay process backwards, but you know what? It worked for me. So I wanted to encourage you as a teacher to break out of the traditional ways of teaching and our traditional expectations of how we expect students to think, because you might have someone in your class who's like me. Again, both are right, and one way is not superior. They're both equal. I'm wondering what kind of take you have when you're writing an essay, and if you find yourself being an inductive reasoner or a deductive reasoner, or perhaps you're both. And I'm wondering what your feedback is on essay writing and when it comes to experiments. I feel like when it comes to an experiment, I might actually do better with the top-down approach. I don't know, something to consider.